I'm Joseph,
I'm Nick.
and this is Fish Jelly.
Yep. Yep.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. It's our 99th episode.
Oh, wow.
Uh, Unfortunately, the 100th episode will probably be not that special because
Uh,
we won't be here. So we have to like pre record something,
oh, is that next weekend?
isn't it? Or am I
No,
off?
I think you're off.
I'm off. So scratch that. We will be in
Oh,
town for the
the
100th
the
episode.
for
I still don't
the
for
bicentennial.
the but I don't know how special it'll be. Well, it'll be special if you're here.
Oh, likewise. So it'll be super special.
Yeah. Uh, Happy birthday to Liza Minnelli.
Oh, how old is she now?
Oh shit! How old is she? Well, while I figure that out, can you name some films of hers you like?
Well, Cabaret, of course. Tell Me That You Love Me, Junie Moon, she had a contentious shoot with Otto Preminger because her mother died while that was being made, of course. And then The Sterile Cuckoo, if you've never seen it, but directed by, I believe, Alan J. Pakula, is very interesting.
Liza turned 77 today.
Wow.
I I would have thought she's like 87. So,
Oh boy. Okay.
well, she's been rickety for a
Sh-
while,
sure.
but I think that's due to like drug use. I think,
Mhm.
right? Isn't she
Yeah,
known?
she had her fun, I guess. I also you don't remember it, apparently, but Arthur, with Dudley Moore is good. Was highly entertained by Rent-A-Cop, which she plays
Burt Reynolds.
with Burt Reynolds, in which she plays a prostitute, and they are supposed to be in love. Oh boy,
I remember you watching it.
it's it's fun. I would actually rewatch that with people, but yeah, she has an interesting film history, but you like Cabaret.
Yes, but I like the guy the most.
You like Michael York or
Yes.
Joel Grey?
Who's the one who's like the MC of the cabaret?
Joel Grey,
I thought he was very good.
who won his Oscar for that, and
Oh,
who his father is, or his daughter is,
the lady from Dirty Dancing.
Jennifer. Yeah, and apparently he came out as gay in
So
the
he's burning in hell right now.
recent history. No,
Is he dead?
is that where I'm destined for?
Well, probably not just for that, but yeah. Um,
You're right.
so Robert Townsend gave an interview. He's a notable director who's
Uh-huh.
done films like
Hollywood Shuffle.
did he do Coolie High or he's in Coolie High?
Michael Schultz did Coolie High.
Why do I keep wanting to put Coolie High on Robert Townsend?
I don't know, but Criterion recently released Hollywood Shuffle.
Well, also he did B.A.P.S.
Yes.
So the reason I'm bringing him up is because he gave an interview where he said that many people over the years, like female celebrities, have said how much the film means to them, particularly Black female celebrities. And then he talked about how much of a backlash the film had when it came out, and but that so many Black female celebrities have told him what the film meant to them, and also that they would love to do a remake. Specifically,
Oh.
he said that Megan the Stallion and Cardi B said that they would
Oh
do
my God.
like separately. So of course there's no I mean there's nothing in the works for this, and but I was just thinking what would that movie be like with Cardi B and Megan the Stallion?
I think Megan the Stallion would be great.
I definitely have more faith in Megan the Stallion's ability to pull it off.
Yeah, well, Cardi would just be herself.
Although Cardi is in Hustlers and she
Mm, yeah, she's okay, but that felt like what's the stunt casting?
the biggest issue with Cardi is her diction. She's unintelligible like 50% of the time. So it's not very pleasant. In short, clips like on social media, it's fine. Listening to her music, I always feel like the worst. Like I like many of her songs,
Hmm.
but I always wish she was just more clear.
But a good screenwriter could play that up.
Oh, that she has a speech impediment.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure, yeah.
that could be a nice dress made for her.
Or she
Uh,
could play someone who's mute.
No. No, somebody could tailor that specifically for her and her abilities because she is funny. And yeah, I think I'd see Megan the Stallion as the Halle Berry. I remember people being upset about them. I remember Roger Ebert gave that a terrible review,
Mm,
um, and specifically saying that somebody should have told Martin Landau he was in a comedy.
that's what's funny about it.
I think so too. It's kind of
Yeah, is
charming.
that he's being very serious.
Um, And, Townsend also directed another favorite, Jackie's Back.
Jackie's back. Jackie's back.
Entendre.
We need well, Jack. I think Jackie Washington Day is in when is Jackie Washington
I
Day?
don't remember.
Because that's when the pod here.
And another favorite of yours that we watched relatively frequently, Holiday Heart.
Okay, well, for the holidays, we need to do an episode for Holiday Heart. We also Jackie Washington Day is on July 15th, so we definitely have to do a podcast episode
Okay.
during that time for Jackie's Back. I think that movie is so fun.
Yes. I've never seen Carmen, a hip opera, by the way.
With fiance Knowles.
That was 2001. Yeah, I've never seen that. He did that too.
Have I told my story about Beyonce and fiance?
I mean, I know that story.
Well, since people seem to like my old stories. So I had a friend back when I worked in the casino and VIP services who would kind of always like con me into doing
Oh,
things.
this man pulled stunts.
Yeah, I felt kind of used. But anyway, one time he's like, I need a limo to be sent to the airport and I need you to book a suite for Mike Epps. And I know, and this is, 20 plus years ago. Like, it's like I know who Mike Epps is, and he was doing a comedy show at the casino I worked in. So my initial thought was like, what? And my friend who was always pulling these shenanigans worked for like a theater production company. So his company would bring shows to venues in Vegas. So it wasn't uncommon that he would do things similar to this story, but he's like, yeah, I need a limo and a suite. And my first thought is always, well, why don't you go through the entertainment department? Like, if he's performing at our venue, there should be a contract that stipulates like what accommodations he's getting. But of course, there was always some raggedy shit happening in the background. And he's like, no, there's no time. Like, can you just? And I'm like, no, I can't. I like it's too obvious. Like, this person who's performing in our casino, like, people are gonna wonder where's he staying, and then they're gonna look and see that like I gave him a free suite. No, like, it's probably part of his contract that he gets X dollar amount towards accommodation. Anyway, my friend tells me, well, he's traveling with Beyonce. And I'm like, what? Yeah. So if you get the limo, we can go and you can meet Beyonce and then it'll bring them back. So then, of course, I'm like, well, if I can meet Beyonce, I mean, maybe I can do it because I could do it. So for days,
And he knew that.
yeah. And this is like for 2 or 3 days that he's like, okay, like, is everything set? Blah, 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 blah. So the day comes, it's like a Saturday morning. I have the limo ordered. We go, and Mike Epps shows up. Like, we pick him up at the airport. This is before we had to, there was less security at the airport. So he has a woman with him,
Mm-hmm.
and they, we greet them, they get in the limo, and I'm still waiting outside of the limo, like, okay, like, how long are we waiting for Beyonce? Like, is she waiting for her bags? I don't know. And my friend's like, oh no, that's it. And I'm like, I thought you said Beyonce was coming. And he's like, Beyonce? No, I said his fiance. Bitch, what I tell you, and stupid me, stories like I have many, many more that happened after that. So I guess I'm Gullible Island, but
Oh, I hated that show. Yeah. In a perfect world, don't you wish you could go back and, slap the shit out of somebody and be like, I'm never speaking to you again because you played me.
but just for my own sanity, I think that 3-year period of my life was very interesting because I have a million crazy stories about the things the two of us got into that I could tell. But so I kind of feel like it adds to the tapestry of my life, and like it was a very interesting period. And I think it's probably why I'm so cynical today. Like, I just don't trust
Mm-hmm.
the things people say because it's like everyone's lying all the time anyway. But moving on, we received a question about, and I didn't know anything about this. I'd be surprised if you do. Someone asked if we think Tiger Woods should get the money, or Tiger Woods' ex-girlfriend should get the money she's asking for. Do you know anything about this?
No, this isn't that white Swedish lady he was married to.
No, that's his ex-wife.
Okay, so
No,
there's an ex-girlfriend and some money.
he had a girlfriend who he started dating back in 2017, and then apparently they've been broken up since October, and she's suing him, I believe, for like 30 or 40 million. So I think the question is related to like, should he owe her money because they were in a long-term relationship? But of course, I wanted to read more about this lawsuit. So there are actually two lawsuits happening.
Mhm.
One is she's suing him to break the NDA she signed because, of course, anyone who interacts with a celebrity has to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, so
Mhm.
that they won't tell all their business. So she wants to break the NDA because apparently there's a law that says you can break an NDA if it relates to like sexual assault or abuse.
Okay.
So of course that makes it really juicy. Like,
Sure.
well, so is that why she's doing it? Because he did something to her? And of course his people are saying they don't because this will just give her an opportunity to share intimate details that of course Tiger Woods does not want out. But the money part of it is that she says that he promised her that she could stay in one of his homes for like a period of time. I don't remember. It's like 1 or 5 years, something like that after they separated, that she could live there. But he told her, you need to leave. But this was just a verbal agreement. So she's suing for this 30, 40 million. And then apparently this is in the home that he has in Jupiter Island, like that super fancy area in Florida. Apparently, because of like renter landlord laws,
Mhm.
like she's not being evicted properly. So there's something involved with that. But anyway, like I guess like a hot take on that.
I would say, sexual abuse or assault is one thing, so who knows? We don't know the details, can't speak to that. But as far as getting the money, this sounds like, you know, this sounds like a gold digger move, but also you didn't put a ring on it. You didn't do something legally binding that says that you get this money. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter how much time you put into it. Like that is the law. So if that is the game you were playing, that is what that lady should have gone through to get that house or that money. I don't
that's
know.
what I think. I feel like if two people make a promise to one another, I do feel like your words should have value, but the reality is like in a court of law,
They don't.
in most cases, unless it's in writing and there's a signature and a notary involved, like you could say anything. But I do feel like I'm sure, people say a lot of things when they're in love or in lust. And so, but it also seems like, girl, you knew what you were doing. She's a younger woman. She's beautiful. Tiger Woods looks like, I mean, he's super rich and famous,
Right.
and you knew what you were doing. And
There's already an automatic vulnerability
you
with
knew when
him
you,
because of past scandals.
right.
I mean, it sounds like somebody that knows what she's doing. And also,
Or
why
no,
did
or she doesn't know what she's doing. Like you signed an NDA, girl. Like if you wanted stuff, you should have had him buy you things in your name and set up an account and a trust for you to make you feel secure. I mean, I don't know these people, so I'm just talking out of the side of my ass. But what I did want to say is this is why because even like a lot of gay people like to say like they don't believe in marriage, they don't want to get married, it's not for them. That's fine. You don't have to get married. But to me, you're not gonna have me laid up in this house for 5 years playing married. Being in a relationship really affects who you are as an individual, right? Like all of a sudden, it's like I'm half a person because I'm giving up half or more of myself to build this life together with someone else. And then you just think one day you're going to tell me like you're done.
Mhm.
No, absolutely not. I wasted all this time with you. I didn't, like personal growth was limited because I was putting that energy into you, and you're telling me all
Well,
these
that's
things.
one way to look at it, yeah.
No, but
It's not just a stymieing thing,
no,
but
but in
it can be, sure.
hindsight, if you think like this person made all these promises and had all these intentions, and then it's so easy. There are a lot of people out there who've been in relation because there are laws, right? Like common law. But I'm saying like there's this period between like 3 and 5 years where a lot of people are together and then it just dissolves. And it's like, if you ask me, I feel like I'm not playing games. We're not going to be laid up in this house for several many years and there's nothing to keep us together. Like it, except maybe the lease we signed together on this apartment. And then once that lease is up,
Or
how
the
many gay couple? I'm just talking about gay
or
couples
the
because
dog.
those are the most people I know usually or have been. Like, how many gay couples have you known who once the lease is up, they break up?
Mhm.
Like, literally, their apartment lease was the only thing keeping them together.
Well, we talk about LA as a city all the time where, the price and living situations kind of causes some of these relationships to keep going. But
So this situation with Tiger Woods and this lady is hard. I don't know the details. I'm also not worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's a very like it's in a stratosphere I don't relate to. So I don't know what to say except that for us regular people, I don't know. You can't let people play with your time and your money and your heart and your personal growth and development. Like if you enter a relationship, what is the purpose?
I don't know why Tiger Woods doesn't have a better system for how to deal with women at this point in his life after the things he's gone through of being like, okay, it didn't work out. Here's 10 million, leave. Or
Everyone likes to give me a side eye when I talk about like how if I were like basically if I were like him, I would hire prostitutes. But it's like to me, that's the smart thing to do. Have a situation with a woman that has a contract and obviously prostitution's illegal in most areas, but you could set up something where it's like, here's the agreement. For every year we're together, you get 3 million.
kind of like what's the name of Janet Jackson?
Yeah, something like that. And then it's like everything's out in the open. We don't have to play these games. You don't have to start recording all our conversations. People do weird shit as like
Hmm.
backup in case. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And a contract, like marriage is a contract. So I'm not saying you have to get married to have an understanding. You can have contracts. You can
But
have,
who knows? Maybe he likes some weird kinky stuff that he feels he can't do with the sex worker. I don't know, but
I mean, those people are professionals.
they are. But people like to have control and play games, and
Yeah, but you have them sign an NDA. You have an agreement. I think a lot of people enter situation, and I'm talking about regular people. Like you work customer service, and I'm like, a bank manager, and you think like, oh, being with me, like you can live with me, and I'm gonna pay all the bills, and you get to just be cute, and then it's like 5 years later you didn't do any personal development. You had goals of going back to college and finishing, but you didn't because you're laid up in my house. I feel like that's a very common thing because I
Mhm.
can think of a lot of people I've known who've done that. Like you literally wasted 5 years just being laid up under this person. And now you have literally nothing to show for it except maybe like HPV. I don't
Oh
know.
my god.
But anyway, there are some sorry to this man entries.
There are?
So last week when we talked about Trey Edwards and Schultz film with The Weeknd and Jenna Ortega, I had said that I saw an article that the film was being called torture porn, but apparently I was mixing up two different projects. The
Oh.
project that's being criticized for being torture porn is The Weeknd's upcoming HBO show with the Euphoria creator Sam Levinson called The Idol.
Oh,
So
Sam Levinson, who did Malcolm and Marie, actually, son of Barry, whose first film I actually quite like.
also, a few weeks back, we mentioned that Mean Girls is being turned into a Broadway musical, which isn't quite accurate. It was actually turned into a Broadway musical in 2016, 2017, and that Broadway musical is now being turned into a film.
Okay.
So,
Well,
okay.
sure.
Um,
We skipped a step in the evolution.
well, I do appreciate accuracy,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
even though I don't remember anything.
Sure.
Films released we didn't cover. Chang Can Dunk,
I think this was a Disney Plus release. I think you had expressed your interest in this was like, I'm not driving to see that, but we had a screener that we didn't watch.
and I still didn't watch it.
Well, we watched a lot of other things. Directed by, I think, directorial debut of Jingyi Shao, about a kid named Chang that can play basketball. That's all I really know about it. But
Next, Confession.
oh god, it's directed by an actor turned director, Dana Hansen, and I don't even know what I looked at what it was about, and then immediately it left my mind. It didn't sound that interesting, but it looked a little. It looked like it might be a fun B, C, D movie night, but we didn't get around to it.
BCD.
I don't know. The poster art's giving me D, but the log line could be a B. I don't know.
Okay, noted. Projects of interest. DA understudy.
Which, if you know, that automatically should get set off Spike Lee bells in your head. The Understudy is a new project. It sounds kind of like a horror film that Spike Lee is going to direct, and he's going to reunite with Jonathan Majors, who was in The Five Bloods.
Yes. All right, we need to take a quick break. All right. There were a lot of movies watched for fun.
Mm.
first, Last Night of Amore.
This was a hangover from the Berlinale I had a screener for that I finally caught up with, directed by Andrea Di Stefano, who's a very handsome actor turned director. He wrote his debut was that Escobar Paradise Lost with Benicio del Toro, but he had a new movie that was in Berlin called Last Night of Amore, which is kind of a police procedural thriller about this grizzled cop on his last night before retirement, and of course a ton of shit goes wrong because he's also doing dirty things as well. But it stars Pier Francisco Favino, who is an actor I also really like. But that was entertaining. I didn't review it, but I enjoyed it well enough.
We finished Goodfellas.
At my insistence, I finally got you to watch the last hour and 15 minutes of that epic.
It's a well put together film, but like I said before, it's just unlikable characters that I wasn't interested in visiting. So we had turned it off initially because I think I was just tired and I didn't like these people. And then it took a long time to finish it. But it is very well done. The story is well put together.
Oh yeah, I think
It's a very good
it's an
movie.
excellent film. But yeah, of course, these people are terrible.
It's just, the other thing that I think bothers me about it is I know people talk about it and people hold in such high regard, and a lot of, like, I feel like a lot of people who have this like hustle and grind, whatever mentality, like sort of hmm, like worship characters like this. And I really don't respect that at all. I really hate this idea of like, I'm a chump because I did all the things I was supposed to do.
Yeah, of
Like I
course.
got my education, I got a career, I got married, I bought a house. Like I have my, 401k. Like I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, and somehow I'm a chump because I'm not a boss or I don't, run my own business. And then it's like there are so many people out here who, like the characters in this movie, Goodfellas, who I don't want to live being afraid of what could happen at any moment. I
Well,
don't.
it also shows that there's a high cost to these lives as well.
And then for what? You can't even live free.
No, you can't. But they don't. Nobody's thinking about that.
So what power and control do you actually have when you can't even? I don't want to be like tucked away in some villa in Italy where I can never leave and I have bodyguards watching me,
Where the
and
law enforcement want to get you, and everybody that you used to associate with wants to kill you for
that
whatever
sounds like
reason.
a nightmare.
Because it is.
That
But
sounds like just, I mean, like that's how I feel about, I don't ever want to be so famous that I can't do anything.
Scorsese's saying that with the film as well. I think it's just.
Yes, so it's a very well done. It's very good storytelling.
Yeah, and I
Yes,
think Ray Liotta is great. Joe Pesci, of course. I think Lorraine Bracco gives a fantastic performance as Ray Liotta's wife. Um, I forgot all about that scene where he kills Michael Imperioli. Joe Pesci just shoots him to death. There's just
Joe Pesci's such a villain,
oh,
but he does a very good job.
he's so good. He's so nasty, and it's so weird to think that this was the same year as Home Alone.
Hmm.
But I have a hunger to rewatch Casino.
Well, then watching back behind the scenes stories of Home Alone and how difficult it was to get Joe Pesci to not be vulgar,
Right.
like, is very entertaining to me. Okay, so our Scream 6 review is not coming. It's not being published until tomorrow because at the request of Paramount,
Yeah.
like saving spoilers until after the opening weekend, which we are abiding to.
Yeah, I think that trend should be saved for something worthwhile, but whatever.
But you decided to watch all of the Scream films. The previous week you watched 1 and 2, and then this past week you watched 3, 4, and 5.
And you watched
And I
those
did
with
as
me.
well. So I mean, we talk about it in the Scream 6 review a little bit, but I mean, I'm sure you'll agree they all feel like the same movie.
Yes, I think there's a difference between what the Wes Craven quadrilogy and the last two. There's a different kind of feeling, but everything's really still the same.
Yeah, a famous person gets killed in the opening. Then the bulk of the film is just these people wearing ghost face masks killing, and everyone trying to piece together who's doing it. And then in the end, there's the reveal, and the reveal is always someone involved in the group.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all 6 movies.
Well, I think Scream 5, I think opens with Jenny Ortega getting knifed, who's not really a famous
Sure,
person by then,
sure.
but yeah, Parker Posey is, I think, a lot of fun in Scream 3, but she can only do so much because that movie was ridiculous, and I didn't. Yeah, they were just hard. They're hard to
They're
get
not
through.
the worst movies, and I do appreciate that for a like a horror franchise. I do think Scream is on the more clever end of keeping everything sort of like connecting all the dots throughout the franchise. So I do appreciate that. I just don't need to watch the same movie basically like 6 times over.
Hmm.
And I mean, there aren't a lot of moments in any of the films that I was like really
Well,
entertained.
and it's like for the legacy characters, there's like absolutely no character development across 5, 6 films. That they're Courtney Cox besides the changing shape of her face and her hair, there's nothing different about that character
Yeah,
at
so
all.
Courtney Cox is the main legacy character because she's in all of them.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, we don't really know anything about her, and she's the same in every movie. And then, yeah, I think the mistake of this franchise, from my opinion, is trying to maintain these legacy characters. I wish they would have just like every movie make it about copycat killers and they make it like an actual thriller that's super gory and
Hmm.
creepy. But this shit is like almost like comedy horror, except the jokes aren't funny.
The jokes aren't funny. It's not smart enough.
But I do appreciate that people like it. And I could see myself being entertained like maybe the first 2 times. But
Mhm.
after that, like with this current one, it was just too much because the current film is referencing the previous five.
Yeah.
Like literally, there's a scene where someone has a whiteboard up and is explaining to another character all the different killings from the previous films, which they're not calling films, they're actual murders. But yeah,
Well,
no.
there's literally someone gets stabbed and is like, "Fuck this franchise," and it's like, well, okay.
It's like supposed to be like self-aware, but to me it's a little too basic
Yeah.
in its self-reference. But
Yes, it's like, uh, dare I say, watching people photograph their food for Instagram.
but
It's
I also
so
like really dumb shit on, like, I mean,
it's
I
okay to like dumb
I'm
basic shit.
I'm
It's okay.
entertained by thrillers on BET plus. Like,
Mhm.
so I'm not trying to act like whatever. I just think that these movies feel like they're all the same. And I guess I would want something more. But anyway, you watched To Leslie.
I did. I caught up, just in time because today is the
Oh,
Oscars.
I didn't even mention that.
Yeah.
Yes, today is the Oscars.
And her miracle Oscar nomination. Yeah, it's a great performance, really, it is. Do I think she deserves an Oscar nomination? I She's a phenomenal actress.
Well, people asked if we're going to talk about the nominations, but we already made a video where you gave all of
I
your
did, yeah.
opinions, so there's no need to redo it.
No, no, I do, think that I'm happier to see her here than little white Michelle Williams get that Oscar nod for The Fabelmans, which somebody should be punished for, making that happen. But, yeah, I don't know. She does a great job as an alcoholic that is given a second, third, fourth, 15th opportunity,
Ugh.
thanks to a love interest with Mark Maron,
Oh,
and Allison Janney. I like her little supporting role, who I think looks great in it. But if we're talking like white ladies who played alcoholics this year that deserved some fucking attention, Sigourney Weaver in The Good House was whatever. I don't know. I'm just so frustrated at the Oscars. I don't like
I
them.
love that you've had your own Oscar campaign for Sigourney Weaver all year.
I have. Somebody has to because this shit's ridiculous. Because apparently, since I'm not Jennifer Aniston, I can't tweet that. Uh, ask people to pay attention to Andrea Riseborough and To Leslie. I do like that it felt like the films we'd see women get in the 70s and 80s. This felt like this could have been made in 1973 starring Marsha Mason, and I would have liked it as well. She does a great job. It's just it's just another really good example of all the shit that we just neglect because there's no one out there uh blowing a whistle for it. And if Jennifer Aniston and Charlize and Nicole Kidman had all wanted to tweet about Danielle Deadweiler until that bitch might have got an Oscar nomination that she deserved.
Okay, well, we've already talked about this,
Anyway,
so we can move
anyway,
on.
To Leslie, it was fine.
You watched something called Suburbia?
Yes, I'm also catching up on Parker Posey movies that I haven't seen before, for I guess reasons we'll discuss later. But yes, this was directed by Richard Linklater, which I've very familiar with his filmography and had never seen this. I didn't quite like it, but it's based on a play by Eric Bogosian, who you know from the film Marriage Uncut Gems, and but is probably best known for starring in Oliver Stone's Talk Radio, which I've never seen. But Parker has a supporting role in this. It's
Was
based
I
on
in
a
the room
yeah,
at
you
one
were.
point?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Steve Zahn is in it. Uh, a lot of other very fresh-faced people from the 90s. Remember Nicky Cat? Uh,
Gosh, I'm having a hard time remembering.
I didn't. It's about these losers that hang outside. Oh, and Giovanni Ribisi. Uh,
Oh yes, because we see him naked.
yes,
I remember that.
he gets naked for no apparent reason. We also have a friend that's been trying hard to get us to rewatch The Other Sister,
Who's trying to make us watch that?
Bo, with
The Other
Juliette
Sister.
Lewis and Giovanni Ribisi, where they play mentally challenged lovers.
Oh,
Directed
I
by
think I recall that.
directed by Gary Marshall.
I would watch that.
I haven't seen that since it came out. I remember Juliette being very sweet
Oh
in
my
it.
God, do you see this poster?
Yes. I My memory as a 13-year-old was that she was very sweet in it, but and Giovanni Ribisi is very distracting. But anyway, Suburbia, yeah,
You watched, continuing with your Raquel Welch string of viewings, you watched 1 Million Years BC.
I did. I'd never seen it. Of course, I was a child, loved Ray Harryhausen special effects films, and I guess I understand why my parents didn't think it was appropriate for me to watch this.
Because of all the butt cheek?
Well, I don't know. Maybe my mom just didn't. Maybe my mom didn't like Raquel. I don't know. Um, but this is from the director of Jason and the Argonauts, which I remember renting from the public library many times on VHS. And
This movie is more entertaining than 65 with
was
Adam Driver.
I watched it. It was a double feature. That was a good double feature. 65 and this. Raquel, who they made a blonde, who I don't think should be blonde, very beautiful and buxom. It also is a bit dull. Uh,
You know, for no other reason, the special effects are fun.
the special effects are fun, and what's more realistic than 65 is like you have all these, you know, prehistoric men and women that are communicating in ways that probably would be more uh, on point
Than
than like
what we saw in 65.
kind of like screaming and yelling and
Grunting
maybe
and
knowing names
yeah.
and having a hard time getting that across. Also, so Don Chaffee also directed another childhood favorite, Pete's Dragon, the original.
Oh,
Anyway,
you watched 100 Rifles?
yes, and because Raquel was in a bunch of westerns, which I find so interesting.
Oh, is that with Burt Reynolds?
Burt Reynolds
Oh,
playing a half Native American,
he looks so crispy in this movie, and he's only how old?
33,
Oh my
but
God.
I thought he was very handsome.
This is why y'all need to stay out of the sun. He looks so crispy.
He does, but Jim Brown, who's the same age, also looks
Okay, Jim Brown it's weird because his skin is flawless
yes.
and he's clean. He's sharp as a tack.
Hmm.
But that man, if you told me he was 53, I would have said, okay.
I think people just used to look a little more mature than
I don't know what happened because I agree. I think
because if you think about Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, she was like 23.
it's so weird because I feel like we often see older films and think, God, they look old. But nowadays, I think people look old.
It's not. I don't think it's about
30-year-old gay men to me could look either 18 or 50.
I don't think it's about looking old. It's about the comportment, how you carry yourself. Like Julia Roberts in that Pretty Woman movie always comes to mind because it's like she carried herself as this adult with baggage, really. Even though I don't
Mm,
like that movie, which like a 23-year-old now that they don't have that air about them
sure.
many times. But
Sure.
yeah, Bert and Jim both very handsome. Both looked a lot older than I thought would have guessed them to be. But this was directed by Tom Grease. It's set in 1912, Sonora, Mexico. Uh,
Well, a character says that, like, Bert looks Mexican.
yes, and he's it's Fernando Lamas.
And then he says,
Something like ain't no goddamn
I don't know,
Mexican.
goddamn it. But then it's like he looks very similar to
Lamas, but the thing is,
Lamas because of his skin, his tan.
but the Mexicans are also the ones that are murdering his people. Well, half
Mm.
is the Yaqui Indian, so that's why he seems racist against Mexicans. And of course, Raquel is Sarita, who is supposedly 100% indigenous,
And
and
her accent.
her accent is no Gouda. She looks fantastic. She gets to be a little bit more than eye candy, which I do appreciate, but she's still mostly eye candy.
Yeah.
And I think what's more interesting, the film feels very dull. It but in 1969, there's a sex scene with Jim Brown and Raquel, which was very much ahead of its time. I wanna say that's probably most likely why this wasn't a hit at the time. There are a lot of weird back stories about what was happening on the set. I think a lot of it was like I think she was jealous of the attention both men received. I think she had sexual tension with both. She didn't get along with Bert, even though they did other movies like Fuzz in 1972. Uh, I want to believe the story about Bert um, getting upset at there not being a black stuntman for Jim Brown and hiring
Oh
one out of his
yeah.
pocket because the studio refused to because he said, times have changed,
Because what they wanted to do was hire a white stuntman for Jim
and put
Brown
him in
and then put him
blackface.
in blackface, and Bert said, "No, if you're not gonna hire one, I'll pay for it."
Yeah,
That's the
that's
story.
the story.
So, yeah, hopefully that's I mean, it's sad that it had to be true, but it's a nice thing to think Burt Reynolds did.
But Reynolds always claimed, kind of like Elizabeth What's her face, about to have some indigenous heritage somewhere. I think he said he was like part Cherokee, which was never substantiated. But he played a Native American a couple times, including in, if you haven't seen it, um, Navajo Joe is entertaining.
Moving on, something called Elsewhere.
Another Parker Posey film from 2019, directed by Hernan Jimenez, who I believe is Costa Rican. It stars a man named Aiden Young, who I didn't quite care for, but he was kind of on a continuum. He looked like he was somewhere between Mark Hamill and Aaron Paul in his screen presence.
What's his name?
Aiden Young. But he looked different, I think, than his IMDb picture. But really great supporting cast, including Jackie Weaver as his mom and Ken Jeong as his bestie. Kind of annoying film though, and Parker's cute in it, and she's the romantic lead, but I didn't really care for it.
Laws of Attraction.
This movie's trash. This movie's absolute trash. I hated this movie. I remember when it came out in 2004. I don't know why I saw it. I never saw it because I was such a Julianne Moore fan. She has no chemistry with Pierce Brosnan. Frances Fisher's playing her mother, who's only 8 years older, and you can tell Frances Fisher looks fantastic in this movie. And why are they having her play Julianne's mom? Anyway, it's about these two superstar lawyers who fall unlucky in love, I guess, and apparently there's a whole news cycle devoted to the personal lives of lawyers. This movie was so stupid, and then they have to take a trip to Ireland because they're both representing um, opposing forces in this high profile divorce between Michael Sheen, who's this Green Day looking rock star, and Parker Posey, who's this designer.
I'm looking at the poster for Elsewhere. Look at
Jackie Weaver's wig is
Jackie Weaver looks like the mushroom from
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 Mario Brothers.
Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah,
Parker Posey looks crazy, but this actor, Aiden Young, he looks like a lot of people
he
actually.
does. Oh, and I forgot Bo Bridges is his dad. Has nothing to do in that movie. Yeah, Jackie Weaver looks insane in it. But
Anyway, we need to keep it moving.
anyway, but Laws of Attraction, and they go to Ireland. It was demeaning to actually everyone involved. It was directed by Peter Howitt. This was trash.
Okay, we watched Major Pain with Damon Wayans.
Oh my god. Directed by Nick Castle.
I don't even know what to say about it.
What you had a good comment about it's like he's doing a Betty Davis impression.
Yeah, it's like Damon Wayans trying to do Betty Davis. I know you said it's based on a like it's a remake.
It's a loose remake of a 1955 film starring Charlton Heston called The Private Life of Major Benson or something.
Okay,
which I've never seen.
We laughed a lot.
I did.
Damon Wayans is funny.
Very.
Okay, but Karen Parsons, who we should all know from not only The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but she's in a film we're going to talk about in a second. I think it might be one of her original roles.
We actually had a Karen Parsons double feature.
We had a Karen Parsons double feature. But anyway, there's a romance between Karen Parsons and Damon Wayans' characters that makes absolutely no sense. The story, the last 20 minutes falls all the way apart.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think this could have been a really solid comedy, but it ends in such a stupid, predictable way.
Yep.
But I would say it's worth your time because I giggled a lot. Damon Wayans is talking to these kids. Oh, and then so he's like a general or like a colonel, lieutenant, something.
Major.
Major Payne, yeah. Oh no, because he's promoted to lieutenant or
Yes.
something. He is a major in the Marines, and then he just loses his job. They're like, "We're downsizing. You don't have a job," which sounds so weird. But then
Mhm.
he gets a job at some private school doing like ROTC, and these kids range in age from 6 years old to a very handsome guy who looks like he's 30,
Uh,
but you said he's 20.
he's 20, yeah.
That made no sense to me. But the way Major Payne is talking to these kids is so funny. So I'd recommend it. But the double feature was with a
And you
movie.
forget Orlando Brown was the 6-year-old.
Oh, the little 6-year-old is Orlando Brown, who people know from That's So Raven,
Mhm.
who has serious mental health issues. Have you ever
Yes.
watched interviews with him?
No, but I know he's in Dr. Phil.
He has made all kinds of crazy comments talking about he has proof of P. Diddy being gay, that he had sex with Nick Cannon. He's just
Oh.
talking real loose. He got a tattoo of Raven Simone on his neck and face.
Oh,
Like
yeah, you can see it. I think
he's
he also had problems with meth,
he has very serious issues, and it's sad to watch him.
Mhm. But he was a cute kid.
But after we watched Major Payne, we put on Death Spa, which is from 1989.
Nah, I think 88, but it didn't come out till 90.
Oh, can you can you try to tell the story of
It's about a gym, health spa in Los Angeles in the late 80s that's literally killing the people that attend it, and it's heavily populated.
because it's haunted,
It is haunted, but
but
the the woman that used to be married to the owner had a miscarriage or some dead baby situation and lit herself on fire, and she is now haunting him through the apparatus of the gym, but also her twin brother, who's this young homosexual played by a man that died of AIDS like a year later, and she is using his body to also wreak havoc on the gym owner.
well, because the other part of it is that the law enforcement who are investigating these murders believe that this gym is supposed to be high tech. So
Yeah.
there's software that controls all the machinery. It's
Hmm.
so stupid. And so they think that maybe it's the software killing people, but it's really the spirit of this dead woman. But the thing about this movie that's so strange is that it feels like serious. It almost feels like an episode of like NYPD Blue.
Yes.
Like
Well, because you have Rosalind Cash
because you have
playing
serious people in
the
it.
sergeant that's investigating. She's there when the diving board goes down. She just happens to be on site.
Karen Parsons is plays one of the hotties in the gym. So does Vanessa Bell Calloway, who looks amazing as well.
Hmm. And then Ken Forey from Dawn of the Dead is also a employee at the gym.
Okay, so we only have a few minutes, but I have to talk about a movie that I hope you've seen. It's called Gang Related
Is that with Tupac?
with Tupac and Jim Belushi, directed by Jim Koof.
I own that. I've never watched it
Let
though.
me tell you something. I would watch it again. This movie is
I
insane.
have asked you to watch that many times over the past years, and you're like, I don't want to watch that.
Well, see, the problem is you don't I have to discover things on my own.
Uh huh.
And if I don't, it's like you don't sell things to me in a way that's interesting. But you had never seen it, so you wouldn't have known like how fucking crazy this movie is. That I'm literally going to take the time to tell you what it's about. Jim Belushi and Tupac play undercover cops who are corrupt as hell.
Okay.
So they are like robbing. So they're supposed to be like investigating gang crimes, drug crimes, but they're corrupt. So they like weasel money out of people and then kill them. So in this city they're in, there are all these like mysterious killings, but no one cares because it's all like druggies and
Hmm.
whatever, gang members. So one day they kill someone as per usual. And we find out the person they kill was another undercover cop working for the feds. So now it's a big deal.
Hmm.
Okay. So they're freaking out. What are we going to do? Well, we have to pin it on someone because the feds are now like they're hovering over, like the DEA is hovering over this. I don't know if it's NYPD, whatever. So these fools decide to pin it on some bum, like just some random bum they found. But there is a montage of them trying to pin the murder on other people. And the way they're doing it is they just bring in random thugs and throw a gun at them. And then the person catches the gun and they're like, this is not my gun. I've never seen it. And they're like, oh, funny. Well, that's funny because your fingerprints are all over it. And they do it like 4 times. And then they realize they can't pin it on anyone because each of them has an alibi. Like one of them was like, "Well, I was in jail that night." Or
Mhm.
the other guy was like, "Well, I was in the ICU because I had appendicitis or something." But anyway, they pin it on a bum who I did not recognize until halfway through the movie is Dennis Quaid, because they have him looking like a full on hobo. Like he's covered in hair, he's dirty and greasy. We find out Dennis Quaid is a billionaire who basically became an alcoholic and went crazy because his wife and kids died as the result of a car accident, which was the result of the wife leaving the house angry because he was having an affair with one of his nurses, because Dennis Quaid plays a surgeon. But before Dennis Quaid was a surgeon, he is the son of some tech magnate. So
Mhm.
Dennis Quaid is worth over $1 billion,
Mhm.
but he didn't want to be involved in the business, so he went to medical school. But then after his wife and kids died, he fled off to Africa and everyone assumed he had died. So for the past 7 years, he's been this homeless guy living on the side of the building Leela Rashawn lives in.
Oh, yeah.
And she is stunning. And I have to give compliments because her wig is laid, which is so funny to me that a movie from 1997, like her wig looks so good, we can't get it together on BET Plus in
Right.
2023. But anyway, so one day, so they're pinning it on him, and Jim Belushi is like kind of having an affair with Leela Rashawn. So he tells her, "Listen, I need you to do something. This bum killed an undercover cop. I need you to just point him out in a lineup." And she's weird about it because she says, "Well, I recognize him. He's the bum who lives next to my building. I don't want to do it." They force her to do it, but then shit blows up because then all of a sudden we switch to a scene in this beautiful mansion with James Earl Jones reading the newspaper, and he sees a picture of the bum, and he's like, "Oh my god, this is this missing billionaire." But no one knew because the Dennis Quaid's character is like a drunk who can't remember anything, so they call him John Doe. So then James Earl Jones is now the lawyer for Dennis Quaid in this court case, and it all blows up.
Are you telling the whole movie?
Yes.
Okay, because that
Or do you want to see it?
well, I've been wanting to see this for years.
It's so
It's
crazy.
actually sitting in a stack of
There are
things that I pull
more.
out for you
So I
periodically.
won't finish it then, but there are more. Like there are a couple more twists that are just crazy, and I would definitely watch it
Well,
again.
I'll remember them if you spoil
I
them.
won't spoil it. I won't spoil it for everyone. But I just try to tell you, like this movie is so crazy, and and it has other cool people in it too. Um, yeah, I would definitely watch it again. My mind was blown with what was going on in this movie, but we need to take a break and then we can get to the secret film. Unfortunately, there are entries in the obituary section. Well, just one. Someone named Topol.
Someone named Topol, for the star of Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, I did see that
Hmm.
actually. Yeah,
Yes, and I mean, he was in a. Uh, we've also seen Flash Gordon from 1980, which he's in.
Flash Gordon.
Which I used to get told I look like Max von Sydow in that film with uh, his particular facial hair.
Oh, we did watch that movie.
hmm
Um,
With Sam J. Jones as Flash Gordon, um, and Timothy Dalton. Yes, he's also in a Bond film.
yes, now I remember. It's very like sci-fi.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
and kind of silly. And who directed that? Mike Hodges or something. Yeah, he died. Really hasn't been in stuff since the 90s, the film wise. But yeah, Fiddler on the Roof. I haven't watched that since I was a kid.
Okay, our secret movie today. So we're doing that DSM podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So we were asked to choose a film, but we gave them several options.
Mm-hmm.
And so selection has been made, which I guess we'll keep a secret. But one of the options what that we provided was the 1998 romantic comedy film Woo, WOO. It's directed by a lady named Daisy V.S.
Daisy von Schurler Meyer. Yep, this is her second
Meyer.
film. Her debut was Party Girl, starring Parker Posey in 1995.
It stars Jada Pinkett Smith as Woo and then Tommy Davidson.
Mm-hmm.
What so this movie is horribly reviewed. It like lots of negative reviews, low scores on everything. I didn't think it was that bad.
I thought this was kind of this is an overused term, but kind of a batshit crazy romantic comedy, that almost works in some regards and then definitely does not in others, but it's not deserving of such, disparagement, but it's also so out there, I feel like people watching this in 1998 were like, "What what am I watching?"
I agree. I laughed a lot, and I like that it feels crazy because the main character is supposed I mean, literally, they keep saying she's crazy. I think what hobbles it is while I think Jada Pinkett Smith does a good job of seeming like crazy and I just we can get into it, but I didn't love her in this role.
I didn't either, but, who's apparently suffering from something called fine-itis, and everybody else has
Been
just
afflicted.
just jumps on board with believing that she has fine-itis, but
Well, let's get in. Well, we're the story is very simple.
yeah.
Tommy Davidson plays like kind of a nerdy paralegal. He has a group of male friends. They're all pigs. Like they talk about women in such a disrespectful
Mhm,
way. All they want is bitches, bitches, bitches. But they're all like professional men. And one day, Dave Chappelle and his girlfriend, played by Paula J. Parker,
mhm.
are supposed to be having like a night together when Wu shows up to see her friend Paula J. Parker,
Her
played
I think her
by or
cousin.
her cousin, played by Jada Pinkett Smith. So Dave Chappelle's like, we need to get Jada out of here because I want to spend time with Paula.
Because Paula's cycle has ended,
So now
so
she,
they can have sex without her getting pregnant?
so they can have unprotected sex and not work.
I mean,
We need to talk
okay.
about it. But it's important to know that that night before Jada shows up at Paula's place, she visits her friend Celestial, who
Mhm.
is this trans woman who is credited as a character named Girlina, but this person is actually
Lena Bradford,
who's kind of a
a very notable DJ.
DJ.
Mhm,
But anyway, so Celestial it is a trans woman in the movie, and she's Jada's good friend,
mhm.
and she's a psychic, so she predicts that Jada is going to meet the love of her life like soon, and that person like the main feature of this man is that he's going to be a Virgo.
Mhm.
Okay, so Dave Chappelle wants to get Jada out of the house, so he calls his friend Tommy Davidson and says, "Hey, can you take this girl out tonight because we need some alone time?" They get on the phone and Jada's being all crazy. And but then she goes, when's your birthday? September something. Oh, you're a Virgo? Okay, bet. Let's go on a date.
Mhm.
So the entire movie is their night out, which kind of reminds me of that movie with Tina Fey and the guy Steve Carell.
Date night?
Well, because it's like one night where it's kind of
Sure.
crazy. I mean, it's a very familiar
Yes,
setup.
yes.
And then in the end, after all these shenanigans, it would appear that they've fallen in love. So it's very basic.
Very yes, in that regard, it's very basic, but, oh, the odyssey getting there is
Okay, the first thing I said, and you said it too, is when the opening scene is Jada walking down the street.
Mhm.
Jada Pinkett is a very nice looking lady.
I agree, yes.
I don't think that she has fine-itis or she's inducing it on
Well,
anyone.
not in that wig, but
And her wig, it's very Nutty Professor.
it's like they trimmed the Nutty Professor
It
wig.
looks like they took her Nutty Professor wig and gave it like because in Nutty Professor, I believe it's a center part, but they
Mhm,
do kind of a side part and they give her these wispy bangs.
mhm.
I hate her hair so much. I don't know why they didn't give her a short pixie a la her normal hairstyle or something like Halle Berry.
Right, but, I mean, think if you think to me, she looked like something that could have been in a TLC music video of the time.
She look that hair, I hate it so much. And then she's the tiniest little thing. But
Mhm,
anyway, the opening scene is her walking down the street. And I'm just like, I don't see this woman stopping traffic because we get these like men falling into
mhm.
manholes and crashing their car. I don't see it for her at all.
Yeah, it's just forcing it's forcing the hand too much, I think, of her beauty.
So another reason why I kind of have a problem with this film, and I know it's from the late 90s and we sort of look at things through a different lens today, but I would say that it's I mean, we could say it's transphobic.
I think there is some transphobia, but they're trying to. It's like we were moving forward in baby steps. So at one point, her relationship to Lena Bradford's DJ, I think, is very positive because
Well,
Paul.
that yes. So Yeah.
Because Paula J. Parker makes some offhand comment about like she can't even decide if she's a man or a woman.
Well, she
And
goes, if she's so psychic, how come she doesn't know if she's a boy or a girl?
oh, okay, well, even more demeaning.
Right.
And then Jada Wu says, "Well, she's everything."
Right. So I agree. I do think for the time and for a film that was probably marketed towards urban audience, I guess you could call it a black film. It's interesting that it's a white woman filmmaker, but
Right.
um I do feel like because when we first meet Celestial, we see that she and Jada have a nice relationship.
Hmm.
Like they're friends. And the idea of her even being trans is not brought up until Paula Jai Parker says what you just said.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, which we'll probably get to, they end up at a bar that is specifically for trans women, which I've been to bars
Hmm.
in the late 90s like that. But this one is like a full on like Night at the Roxbury type club, which
Yeah.
seemed odd. And that felt problematic, but we can get to it.
Sure.
Um, did you think it was weird seeing Dave Chappelle? I thought that he was acting kind of normal.
Yeah.
So that was really
He's just
interesting.
a man trying to get some, from his woman. But there's a very bizarre sex scene.
There is a sex scene between Dave Chappelle and Paula J. Parker where they're role playing. And, like, I guess a character trait of Dave Chappelle's is that he loves chicken because we see him with a bucket of what's it
Like it's
called?
called Chicken Delight.
Chicken Delight, which is supposed to be like KFC, which is weird because then she even references KFC in the movie, but they don't
Hmm.
have KFC chicken. But they're role playing with him playing like he's dressed up like
He looks like a circus pimp.
a circus pimp. Yeah. Yeah. Because I was gonna say like if the Colonel Sanders was a pimp but also a magician because he's wearing like a cape and he's
Yeah.
shirtless. And then they dressed up Paula J. Parker like sexy Big Bird
Yeah.
because she's wearing like yellow feather bikini.
Yeah.
But describe the best part of that scene.
Uh, he wants her to play a chicken hoe.
Yes, a chicken hoe.
She's a chicken hoe, which
Say it again.
chicken hoe.
You have never
I'm
seen a
so
movie with a chicken hoe.
what the fuck is a
If
chicken
for
hoe?
no other reason, you need to watch Woo for the chicken hoe.
Yeah, it is a very fun scene because he makes her walk and talk. I guess like a chicken. Do
She's
the walk right.
clucking.
She's clucking like a whole ass chicken with her bent arms on her hips, and then he makes her peck nibbles of food off his little chest.
He has like popcorn kernels on his chest that she is pecking off of him
She
like a goddamn chicken.
and she's doing it.
You've never seen anything like this,
I mean, it's not sexy, but
but it's
it
funny.
is funny.
Okay. Kingdom Come is one of my favorite movies. I
Hmm.
just think the ensemble works so well. It's so silly. And I don't generally like Jada Pinkett. I do like her in Kingdom Come because she's playing like this kind of psycho housewife.
Hmm.
I do think she does crazy eyes and crazy face very well.
She does.
And she did like very like erratic movements. So I think she serves the character well in that regard. Like, because when we first see her being crazy, she's sitting at Dave and Paula's place and Dave passes her the phone and she immediately like wipes it off because of his
With
germs
something she took from her breast
with
to
an
wipe
old
off.
dirty
Yeah.
napkin she had in her titty pocket. But I think she does that really, really well.
She has a couple good moments, I think.
She does.
Yeah.
We do see Tommy Davidson naked, and I don't know why we needed that.
I don't know.
It made no sense
He's
to
alone in his apartment and he's still covering his junk though, so it's like, well,
right. You're alone in your apartment and you get naked because he's trying to change to get ready for the date that she suddenly says yes to that he didn't know was even happening. But then, yeah, why would you cover your genitals if you're home alone and
right.
you're walking around naked anyway?
But
Little things like that seem weird to me.
I thought he was super cute in this though.
LL Cool, Ladies Love Cool James is in the movie.
Living up to his name, I guess.
He plays Tommy's neighbor, and he's playing like a Don Juan DeMarco type, like
Mhm.
hood. But I actually thought he was a really sweet neighbor because he has some very beautiful women. The woman who opens the door, because Tommy goes next door to his neighbor, LL, to say, I need help. I'm going on a date. I don't know what to do. And LL's like, don't worry, I got you. But one of his ladies opens the door. That lady was fine as hell. She should have been Woo. We need a woman who looked like that.
Sure.
Or so maybe that actress couldn't have brought the crazy like Jada, but you know who could have? Paula J. Parker.
Mhm.
I don't know why Paula wasn't the lead in this movie.
Because
Don't you think she would have been better?
they were fashioning in the late 90s. Jada was being fashioned into a star.
But even like
I mean,
in
you said the same similar things about Set It Off, about who could play her character, but she was being the one that was positioned to assume this.
I just don't like Jada
I
in
don't mind
any,
her.
and I'm very familiar with her career. I just don't think that anything I've ever seen her in, I felt like it had to be her. And then even like we watched the movie Sprung with
Mhm,
Paula J, and I feel like she'd be so perfect as Wu because she's sexy enough,
mhm.
but then that lady has crazy face down.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But, I was aware of this as a kid in '98 because I was a Pam Grier fan, and, initially, the trades had Pam Grier listed as playing Woo's mother, and she got cut from this film. So, that's why I never watched it, because Pam Grier's not actually
I
in it.
think we I think we could have used some background on
We could have, because it takes so long to orient ourselves in
her intentions
what
are,
Woo
what
is
her
doing.
yeah. That's part of the problem with the script too, is like I'm very uneasy about who Wu is.
Mhm.
And even in the end, when she and Tommy seem like they're gonna be something, I still don't feel good for him. Like, I think this lady's not right for
I
you.
think she's insane, yeah.
Yeah.
When she first, acts out in his apartment and breaks his mirror because she's making a scene, and there's a good line about her being like Sybil, but, yeah, I'm just like, "This doesn't work right now."
No. But really quickly getting back to LL, he gives Tommy like a sex date kit, which is like a cassette mix or a
Mhm.
cassette tape with a mix of like R&B slow jams. And then he gives him like a little bag that has like a condom and body oils and incense.
And isn't the name of it f the mixtape For the Panties or something?
Yes, he has a mixtape called For the Panties. But I thought he was a good neighbor. At
Mhm,
one point, Tommy tells Jada that she's as fine as frog hair.
mhm, which is something my dad used to say.
It sounds like something your dad would say. But so when she gets to his house, it seems like they're doing all right. But then immediately we see she's crazy because he tells her, like, I can't believe a woman like you doesn't have like men clamoring all over you. And she gets offended.
Mhm,
Like, all you care about is sex. And he's trying to like backpedal and say, well, I could see you as like a sister.
mhm,
And she goes, oh, really? And then she starts acting crazy. Then his buddies come over and saying all kinds of crazy sexist shit. So then that's when she does the scene you alluded to, which is like break a mirror in his house
mhm.
because
He has a fragrance that her cousin used to wear who was murdered or
something
something. Yeah.
crazy. Um, I think one of the first really good scene to me is when they go on their date dinner to this Italian
Mhm.
restaurant.
And she speaks fluent Italian.
And she's acting so crazy. She causes a scene in the restaurant where she's like, because they seat her in an awkward position where she's like under some cheap plastic plants and like a gold vase. And she feels like, oh, because they're black, they put them in this awful setting. So she like breaks a chandelier. The restaurant someone catches on fire. Like,
Yeah. There's so, and then she has a scene where, Aida Turturro, who played, Tony Soprano's sister,
that's right. And then during the dinner, like a wedding party pulls up in a limousine and she recognizes one of the bridesmaids
Tookie.
and they have a big moment. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, there was some slapstick there that it reminded me, if you think of, nothing's ever gonna be better to me than Bringing Up Baby, but that kind of level of slapstick can work.
And Tommy Davidson is so like his comedic acting, I think is very strong.
Yeah,
Like I think he's doing a lot,
mhm, and I think he's charming and
and
sweet.
he is. Um, then they transition to like a salsa club. Did you notice the guy singing?
I did notice him, but I didn't know who it was.
Well, I didn't. I don't know who they were. They were just very attractive men with no like their
They're
shirts
not wearing any
open,
shirts, yeah.
but their lip syncing was horrible. It was so distracting. Um,
But I just think that it's funny we're in New York because that also happens to be the same, like, Latin music festival that his raggedy ass friends are at too.
right. Then they transition to a private club, and it's important to know that, well, two things. Tommy drives this like nice Volvo that he's very meticulous about, and they end up going to this private club that looks like it's in like on Skid Row, and he
Mhm,
parks in some random alley. And so, of course, you can predict what's going to happen when they return to the
mhm,
car. It's going to be gone, which it is. But another plot point is Tommy's ex girlfriend turned out to be just some gold digger who convinced him to co-sign on a car for
mhm,
him. And then we actually see her driving it. And he co-signed on a convertible Corvette for her, which
mhm.
is a big plot point we'll get to. But they end up at this private club, and of course, Wu is acting crazy. I did want to mention I thought the soundtrack was really
The
good.
soundtrack's very good for this film, yeah.
But at one point, because Wu gets mad at him and like walks away, a prostitute approaches Tommy, who I thought was gorgeous.
Because she was, yeah.
Um, but then he kind of shoos her away and she gets mad. And then Tommy says, "Man, they would sell a pack of hair to anyone." Because she clearly has like a long weave
Then
on.
he has a really weird interaction with that bartender.
Yes. And I recognize the bartender. I didn't look up who he was, but
Because I thought they were trying to make him seem gay,
I
but
also wrote that I thought that the bartender was supposed to be gay.
because he's like, imagine meeting a woman and the bartender's like,
He seems really invested in him, like he wants to talk to him.
yeah, and he's also rude to the prostitute.
I did want to call, we saw this on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, we had to rent it, so it was on Amazon. But whoever did the captions, the use of the N word is prevalent in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it's captioned, they're using a hard ER. And I just thought that was really interesting because that's not what these characters are saying.
Oh, the woman that played the prostitute, whose name is Crayola.
Yes, her character's name is Crayola.
Nikki Gilbert.
Nikki Gilbert? No, Nikki Gilbert is from the musical group Brownstone, and she plays the woman at the police station.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
No. Nikki Gilbert's also beautiful. No,
that's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
What was the prostitute's name?
She doesn't give her name.
She
but
does,
that lady
though. It's
is
something crazy.
stunning. She's stunning.
Is Buddy Lewis the bartender?
I'd have to see his picture. But yes, I know who that is. I think he's on the Chappelle Show. Look up his credits. But anyway, so then we transition. Wu and Tommy kind of like separate because he's mad and his car's been stolen. So he goes home, and that's when his conscience appears to him. And who's playing his conscience? Billy D. Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And then they play it. We even get like a little sound clip from like Diana Ross and Mahogany.
Mm-hmm.
It's really strange. But while Tommy is at home being visited by Billy D. Williams, Wu has left with Tommy's raggedy ass friends, and that's when they end up at that trans bar.
Right, because what's weird is those friends are waiting to get in because it's the woman at the door won't let them in.
Who's gorgeous.
And then Wu walks up and she's like, "You guys can come in with me," which I don't even know why she does that.
You know what? I didn't think about that until you just said it, but that's really weird that they're all that these three guys are waiting to get into this bar, which is a bar for trans women. Yeah, and then she says, "Oh, they can come in with me." But the woman working the door at this trans woman's bar she's stunning, and she kind of reminds me of Britney Spears in the "Oops, I Did It Again" video,
God,
except she looks way better. The woman in this movie looks way better. But so Wu goes there to talk to Celestial, her best friend / psychic, and she's telling her like, "Girl, I met this Virgo and he ain't shit. I don't know what to do." And Celestial's like, "Well, girl, I told you it's in the cards, so you just need to figure it out." But the problem is those three buddies of his are with her, and one of them, I think his name is Hop.
Mm-hmm.
He meets a couple of women at the bar, and then we see him having a gay old time, and he's not realizing that these are trans women, but his two other friends do. So then of course there's the obligatory scene where he's like, "Oh my god, you're like, those are men in dresses, and don't you know, haven't you seen The Crying Game?
Yeah,
didn't you look at their Adam's apple?" And then of course when Hop realizes that he was kissing on what they keep saying are men, then of course he's all grossed out, and I was very disappointed in that.
Because like Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura.
And not because I'm looking at it from 2023, but because you took the time to cast a trans woman in a role where she actually is like the friend to someone, and her being trans is not a plot point. But then and then you even have the main character kind of standing up for her when another character mocks her gender. But then you end it with this trans nightclub, which could have been very interesting, but we already knew where that was going. And then, of course, you have these three knuckleheads like repeating that these are men in dresses and it's gross. And they always have to do that thing where they like scrape their tongue after they kiss one of them. And again, if it would have been handled if I almost feel like if we wouldn't have been made to feel like we respected trans people with Celestial, I wouldn't be as bothered. But the fact that I kind of was like, oh wow, in the beginning, like we actually cast a trans woman and we're not making her gender a thing
Hmm.
makes it suck
Well,
more.
actually, the lead character is actually defensive of her.
Right.
Um, again and again, like the crying game,
Oh
because
yeah, they mentioned the crying game like three
and
times.
it just dawned on me that scene where Jim Carrey is, scrubbing his body like he's been exposed to radioactivity. Is they're playing the crying game theme song in Ace
Hmm.
Ventura. I don't know. It's just it's unfortunate, but very, very much
But
of the
moving
time.
on, after they leave after Wu talks to Celestial, she decides she's going to go find Tommy, and they find each other, and she agrees to help him find his the convertible Corvette he co-signed on. And then there's kind of a funny scene where Wu tells his ex-girlfriend she's there to repossess the car, and then she steals the keys and they drive off. And the final shot of the film is the two of them in this Corvette in a parking lot dancing in the pale moonlight. So it seems like they're going to be okay. But then there's also another sort of side plot where we see that there's a guy in the beginning of the film who calls Wu, like Shakim or someone,
Hmm.
and he says, "You need to meet me." And we see her call him saying, like, "I'm not gonna see you." And it makes it seem like that's her ex-boyfriend. And then the very end, we see that we finally meet him with her, and now he's engaged to the rapper Foxy Brown,
Who's playing somebody named Foxy?
who's playing someone named Foxy. And they're at like a rap place. So I don't know if she was playing herself, but um Tommy shows up and he's with her and he's mad because he's like, wait, so you here hugged up on your ex-boyfriend. I thought we were going to be doing something. And then there's the reveal that it's her brother, which I actually thought was kind of interesting, except that the way she was hugging her brother seemed very intimate.
Yes, her leg was up on his thigh.
Didn't that seem
It
odd?
was odd.
But I also thought that that was a very, like, I didn't see that coming, that that was her
No, I didn't
brother.
either.
So I kind of thought that was clever. And the reason she didn't like Foxy Brown is because she's protective of her
Mhm,
brother, not because she's just jealous of some other bitch or whatever.
mhm.
So overall, I found this movie very amusing.
Okay, this is why I thought Crayola was the prostitute. Because look at Nikki Gilbert's IMDb photo.
Yeah. No, yeah. So, oh, well, that's another good scene. So, Nikki Gilbert, who's in the group Brownstone, which is the group that Michael Jackson had under his label, she plays she works like at the counter of the police station, and Tommy has to go in to report his car stolen, and she's just being all rude to him.
She's not even being the worst, and he's obviously had a bad night, but he makes some comment, and because even I said, "Oh, can I talk to somebody who at least has a GED?"
Yeah, she isn't being that rude to him. She's just kind of talking on the phone and telling. But then when she actually gives him the paperwork, she's being nice
She's
about
being
it.
helpful,
But then
yeah.
she walks away and he's being very rude to her. So then, of course, she lets his ass have it. And then a very handsome police officer, like, kind of tackles Tommy and tries to arrest him. But then
Mhm.
he sees Wu and he's all like blinded by her beauty and says, "Oh, well, anything for you." Again, I don't think Jada is giving stopping traffic beauty.
Yeah.
So
Again, not in that hair. I do think she's a beautiful woman, but that mm,
if they would have cast a different lead to be Wu and they cut out the transphobic shit at the end, I think this could have been like a classic comedy.
there's just such a weird and maybe want to rewatch Party Girl because it's been years. There's just a very weird zany energy to it that I like.
Yeah, I would recommend. It's we had to rent it for what, $3.99.
Yeah,
I think it's worth the $3.99. I did giggle a lot. We only have a few minutes left though. What do we have going? We're going to a Oscar viewing thing.
yeah, we're gonna see. We don't have to stay till Sigourney presents. I'm sure I'll find it online.
No, I mean if we're enjoying ourselves, that we can stay.
Hmm.
But we're doing that, and then Scream 6 review comes out tomorrow, and then there's another. Oh, John Wick
For
4 will release like on Wednesday, I think.
oh, okay,
And then we're watching something else big this week, I think.
Shazam.
Oh, Shazam.
I'm more excited for the Boston Strangler.
I am too, because I like Abnormal Psych and serial killers. However, it's for Hulu. And the poster art with Keira Knightley is not making me feel like this is going to be riveting.
Well, if anything, it'll make you want to watch the old Tony Curtis version.
But I'll absolutely watch it.
And then the new Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin movie.
You know, I like those old broads, so I'll check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Moving On, it's called.
Yeah.
Jane made headlines recently.
For what?
On The View.
Oh, because she said something about kill.
You can't.
Yeah.
And it was, of course, taken out of
context.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't like aggressive language in general. To me, it just is divisive. Like, you can be passionate and not trigger people, but or inflame the situation.
Oh, and you had started to watch an episode of Swarm, which I think comes out next week.
We watched the pilot.
Not all of it.
Not all of it. I was very interested. I was just tired, and then I also wanted to stop because I wasn't taking notes. So if we're going to review the series, we should probably restart it.
Starring Dominique, Bring Me My Fishback.
The main character's last name is Fishback.
We've seen her in things.
And we were driving, I think. And for some reason, we laughed for a long time about Fishback and Bring My Fish Back. And all the way, like all the scenarios where someone would utter the words, Bring My Fish Back.
Oh no, it's cooked just fine. Bring me my fish back.
So stupid. Are you reading anything?
I'm reading. I finished The Cement Garden by Ian McEwan. Now I have to find a version of that film streaming somewhere with Charlotte Gainsbourg. And now I'm reading You're on an Airplane, the memoirs of Parker Posey.
Do you have a quote for us?
I have I have two quotes because I like this song.
Go ahead.
You guys don't want handouts. You want handbags from Chanel.
What's that from? Nicki Minaj?
No, it's Patty Harrison and Ziwa.
Oh my God.
There's a song they did called Stop Being Poor.
Oh, I know that song.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's very funny.
But because I'll listen to it while running, and I always have to stop because I giggle.
Say the line again.
You guys don't want handouts. You want handbags from Chanel.
Yeah, that is a good one. We only have like 30 seconds left.
Oh, Billy Crystal. Nothing can take the sting off the world's economic problems like watching millionaires present each other golden statues.
Oh, in reference to the Oscars.
Snap.
Ta-ta.